Good afternoon. This is Media Center, Ukraine, Odesa. And our current briefing will cover a very important topic. There are a lot of discussions about tourniquets and other equipment to save lives of soldiers, volunteers, journalists. The military discussed the issue of bed tourniquets, the supply of bed tourniquets in Ukraine. And we have invited Artem Prokopyev, senior tactical medicine instructor at the PULSE Charitable Foundation. And he'll tell us good and bad tourniquets, and will also show how can a bad tourniquet affect the wound. Good afternoon. First, I would like to correct a bit what you've said. Tourniquets start saving lives at once earlier than after 1 hour. That's why we need tourniquets of high quality that soldiers can use individually or can put on other people. So they are recommended tourniquets, and in Ukraine we refer to the American Committee of Aesthetic Medicine, and those tourniquets that have been examined and scrutinized by this committee, and we would like all Ukrainian servicemen, women to have such tourniquets. As for bad quality tourniquets, there are some dangers related to these tourniquets, so we will discuss this topic as well as the names of different companies producing tourniquets and their availability in Ukraine. I have some examples of bad tourniquets. They are even packed because we will have some experiments with them. We have new bad and good tourniquets to explain what is wrong with them. So what is the problem? We know that a tourniquet should put pressure on a limb to stop bloodshed. It fully stops circulation of blood in a limb, in an injured limb. So it can stop bleeding. If you use some China or other bad quality tourniquets, what can be wrong? Its pressure is not enough to stop bleeding. Secondly, it can be broken easily when trying to put the necessary pressure on a limb, and you will need something else to stop bleeding. It can have the needed pressure, but in bad quality tourniquets, no one can guarantee that the pressure will be always there. Because tourniquet can be affected by moisture, by different temperatures, high and low. So in the field, anything could happen. And recommended tourniquets will have less error because the use in the field of high-quality tourniquets has been tested, and this error will be higher for Chinese tourniquets because we cannot anticipate the pressure of these tourniquets on a limb. Self-made or Chinese tourniquets cannot ensure enough enforcement, enough pressure on a lip, and they can block like venous blood, but there is no blood supplied to a limb. And we're afraid of compartment syndrome. So this is the situation when the blood can get to a limb, bad due to the fact that this is a bad quality tourniquet. It cannot stop blood bleeding. The blood still gets into a limb, but it cannot go outside. There is excessive pressure, blood pressure in that limb, and there is the bigger risk of amputation for such limb. And the bleeding can be still there. And we can face a lot of problems at once. So the bleeding could be stopped otherwise, but people could rely on bad tourniquets, and bleeding is still there, increasing the possibility of amputation. And the quality tourniquet is easier to take off for healthcare workers. It is easier to control such tourniquets. And the history of tactic medicine has cases when tourniquets could stop bleeding for circulation of blood for 16 hours, but thanks to the skills and resources of healthcare workers, even after 16 hours, limbs were safe. And I have seen such numbers in literature, and I think that the real experience in Ukraine can be different, but in case of using good quality tourniquets, as it's not for 1-2 hours, as it was like mentioned in Soviet manuals or textbooks, we could use tourniquets now longer without follow-up amputation. And it is very important for doctors, for healthcare workers to understand how to remove a tourniquet from a limb. So, and now let's have some practice. We have the original CAT tourniquet, CAT tourniquet, which is recommended by TCC. It has a long history. How it was created is one of perhaps the most popular on our planet. It has a lot of different markings and certificates proving that this is original. I'm not sure that you can now see it on a camera, but those people who have used such tourniquets know about unique marking that can be found on tourniquet. It is very hard to forge these marking in China. They try to do this, but as far as I see, they are not very successful in it. Original tourniquets can be relatively easily identified. And I will like to describe its mechanism, and then it will be easier for us to compare this tourniquet with Chinese tourniquet. So, what are the parts of this tourniquet? We have a plastic buckle. We have the windlass rod that should be turned in circles to create the pressure. We have the fixer for this rod to preserve the pressure. We have the strap that allows to fix this construction. We have timestamp. We have the Velcro here that could be fastened easily. And there are different varieties of this CAT. There is could be a red tip, which is will be easier to find and to tighten the whole construction. This is the elements of this tourniquet. And I would like to remind that this is perhaps one of the most popular tourniquets on our planet, if not the most popular one. People rely upon it. And all other tourniquets that I've brought with myself today is an attempt just to forge it somehow. We have some original ones, but I will show them later. So there are a lot of attempts to replicate this tourniquet, but the construction is the same. When it comes to bad quality tourniquets, we can face different issues here, and I would like to show it now. This is a new tourniquet. So backing is rather unclear. So you can see that the timestamp is not fixed properly, but let's imagine that someone buys this tourniquet, and so we can see that it resembles cat tourniquet, at least the orange one. So, and I think that it is easy to break this tourniquet because this is too soft, and I will try to do it now. So can I go there? So I cannot ensure enough pressure, and this is what we get. So it was broken because it could ensure the needed pressure. So, and I could not even feel any pain because there was not enough pressure. And so this is the first problem that we can face. It's easy to break it. So if it is broken, it is really a good news. So people who buy such tourniquet can actually test it, and then they will know that they should not use it. And people who can just render a first aid, they can also break such tourniquet, then they can substitute it with something else. But we can face other cases when it is not broken, but we cannot rely upon such tourniquets because no one can guarantee that they will be able to keep stopping bleeding in several hours. So it poses certain danger to people. We have different tourniquets like that. So, and this is Turkish for a tourniquet, and I couldn't break it, but I still believe it is dangerous. And you can see that it resembles a cat tourniquet. It is produced in Turkey, and my colleagues from Turkey that they used it in Turkish army, but unfortunately. So it did not prove to be effective, and it is considered like self-made. It is not recommended by international standards, so there are problems with pressure. It is very difficult to put it, to adjust it. And that's why we say that it is dangerous. Most tourniquets that I have with me today don't have any marking, and it is very difficult to understand who is the producer, the manufacturer of such tourniquet. If there are no signs here, no names here, it is not recommended to use such tourniquets. If you have some information on the tourniquet, please compare it with the list of recommended tourniquets. If it is on the list, but you can see signs of forgery, you should check the marking, because all original tourniquets have internet sources, have guidelines how to identify counterfeit product, and so there are original markings which are very useful for every buyer to identify the original product. Apart from tourniquets, China tries to forge a lot of other types of equipment. If we speak about, for example, some other like equipment, to stop bleeding, it's okay. But they can also try to produce counterfeit first aid kits. And these are counterfeit occlusive patches, and we can describe this. These are vent chest seals. This allows just to deal with the wound of the chest. So it can be just injured. The person can be too injured in breast, and we need to seal it for air not to get inside, and for the air inside to go outside. When it comes to vent chest seals, we have some bad examples, and this is the committee. It does not have a list of the recommended vent chest seals, but it has the list of requirements to manufacturers. So the committee has preconditions for producing safe seals, and there are manufacturers in the world who follow these requirements. And we also have some Chinese products, and I can show you this Chinese seal. So we have seal. We can detach it from its plastic base, and it should be put or stick to the body, and we have some mechanical ventilation here. So if person inhales, the air cannot get through the wound in chest, and if the person exhales, the air can go outside. But we have a Chinese product. There are problems with sticking with the gluing the seal to chest. There are no additional elements which are needed and which allow to clean wounds. So it is not safe. And the manufacturer of such seal does not follow the requirements. And on the instructions, it is said that you need to use to clean the wound using the servet inside, but actually you cannot find it in the package. Many instructors and many servicemen or servicewomen or military doctors have tested different options, different seals that are manufactured in China. This works better, but you see that it does not stick properly, especially when it comes to hairy breast. So I can now stick it to my hand, but I cannot do this on it with the chest. So this is also a bad quality example. So Asian market tries to replicate quality products from the United States or from the UK. So if you buy something for yourself or for the military, please check such seals. If it is stated by a manufacturer that they follow the requirements. There are a lot of sources, a lot of literature by organizations who provide training. There are web sources that publish lists of quality vent chest seal. You can also find some videos with feedback on YouTube, for example. TCC also has some videos just showing quality seals. If I'm not mistaken, they have videos with 7 manufacturers who follow the requirements. And now coming back to tourniquets. The situation is not that good with them. And there is one NGO examining tourniquets in Ukraine. And they say that around 200 self-made tourniquets or Chinese tourniquets or other bad quality tourniquets from other countries got to this NGO. And they examined them to understand different types of tourniquets that exist in Ukraine. 200 is quite a lot, especially when it comes to comparing recommended variants and formats of tourniquets. So there are 7 tourniquets which are recommended. We can add a siege manufacturer from Ukraine, which has there's no comments by TCC, but we rely upon this company. So we have 7 or 8 tourniquets in the world that we can advise to use, and 200 which we cannot recommend. And you can see that such comparisons is not that good. So it depends on what sources do we rely upon. So of course we trust TCC, but the former employees of these committees, TCC were not interested in certifying Ukrainian tourniquets. So this is an American committee and cannot respond to what is happening all over the world. That's in our case, our organization adds SICH. This is a Ukrainian company that started producing tourniquets in 2014. They made their errors. They upgraded their tourniquets, and we can see that our military uses these siege tourniquets, and we recommend them. We say that this is a quality product. When it comes to other types of Ukrainian tourniquets, unfortunately, I cannot recommend some other Ukrainian tourniquets apart from siege. I would like to wish them good luck. So I hope that they will improve their products, but the recommendations of the Tactical Combat Casualty Cares Committee are important, and actually people's lives depend on them, depend on what tourniquets are used. I can wish good luck to Ukrainian manufacturers, but now I can recommend only siege tourniquets when it comes to tourniquets of Ukrainian production. As for tourniquets produced, for example, in China, we cannot rely upon those tourniquets. And some Chinese manufacturers, they try to replicate CAT tourniquets, and they try to deceive people. They use cheap materials, and they open some additional shops in Europe. And so the Chinese manufacturers really are involved in fraudulent activities, and I hope that our neighboring countries like Poland can control the supply of such tourniquets. We also studied the situation in Poland. They try to protect their market from Chinese tourniquets. They are also So you should not buy Chinese tourniquets. So they can just rectify their errors. And a lot of people in Ukraine and we need to work with this to ensure high quality tourniquets at the market. I have a question. And thank you, actually, saying that tourniquets can save life during first minutes. We should put tourniquet as soon as it is possible. How tourniquets get to the military? Are these some official supplies? So these are they bought by volunteers? Are they official channels of supply through the Ministry of Defense? So when the risks occur to buy uncertified, unquality tourniquets? So I trained servicemen and about the situation, and your question just reflects the situation. So, and there was the response that some serviceman bought it by himself, and they decided to buy some additional tourniquets to what had been provided. Some unrecommended tourniquets were provided to the unit just a year ago by volunteers, and some tourniquets were provided to this unit through the state. So there were first aid kits with the unrecommended tourniquets, and we do not have some one answer to your question. There are different channels for unquality tourniquets. This could be through volunteers, through friends, through relatives, through the state. The state can get tourniquet from international charitable foundations, and there is not enough level of audit for that. So there is no legal procedure to just identify unquality tourniquets. Sometimes it happens when at the local level some officer says that tourniquets are bad, that they should not be given to the military. But sometimes they provide such tourniquets, and this is a bad decision. Thank you very much. Thank you for your this important information. I would like to ask journalists to cover this topic. You can just tell the story about the supply of unquality product that should save people's life. Thank you, Artem, once again. Our next briefing will be in 20 minutes, and it will be dedicated to the start of educational year in the schools of the Odesa region. Stay tuned.